Welcome back to Random Edge Productions. This one is a journey to India that I took 20 years ago, and this is part 2. Uno, dos. I'm bilingual. So, background on this. If you haven't watched the first one, I'd encourage you to watch the first video, part 1. I'm in Ambala, India, at a training center for Bible women. And they're in ages from 16 to upwards of 40, maybe. And Bible women are church planters in India. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up where I left off. Again, I'd encourage you to watch the first video if you if you want to get up to speed. Here I go. Connection between teacher and student seems to be happening, though speaking through an interpreter will always encumber a full spectrum of communication. I feel a bit distanced, yet confident that good transfer of information is happening through our translator. We seem to be on schedule for the lessons and are hoping to finish early and get into some other areas of training. We had a certain amount that we wanted to cover, and then we had some extra bonus features for our teaching. And I think I had one about how not to be a distraction when you're talking or sharing in front of... How not to distract your audience when you are talking or sharing thoughts. You know, if you had keys in your pocket jingling, or you were doing some mannerisms that distracted them from your main point. So that's what we're trying to get to, is these extra ones. Anyway, we'll start again. These are very disciplined, a bunch of students. Their lives consist of 5 days a week of study with Saturday and Sunday off. Not much recreation for them. I wonder how American teens would fare within this regiment of so few extracurricular activities or distractions. Teaching female students is a unique dynamic all its own. We are a strange anomaly to them. I found that I stand taller than most Indians do. And it's true. I might have mentioned it in the first episode, that at a train station, I was like head and shoulders above most there that were waiting in line. And of course, I was the only one with white hair. If a girl makes eye contact and finds that I'm returning the stare, she immediately giggles and covers her face with her hand and seeks to share the embarrassment with her friends. And I'm not sure if it's because I'm doing, or just a male in general staring her direction. On more than one occasion, I would catch a girl patting her hair or some other similar gesture, and would do the same to my own hair. It was a riot to watch the commotion and embarrassment alongside smiling and the pleased giggling of her and her classmates. The respect shown on each new day for Lance and I as teachers was profound. The students would greet with a "Good morning, sir," when answering questions, and affirming that they understood. They would say, "Yes, sir." The only offensive and disrespectful banter was the jabs and one-liners exchanged between Lance and I, and we were relentless. We would torment each other. It was a lot of fun. This too seemed to endear us with the students. They delighted that we were willing to sand off the corners of formality and present ourselves in a very approachable manner. Yeah. A lot of the teachers there were very formal and strict with their students, and that may be one of the ways they keep the discipline and educational priority a priority, is by approaching them that way. Lance and I, we were on a mission trip. We were there to teach, but also to interact and develop a relationship and present ourselves in a way that wouldn't be distracting, but like I mentioned, kind of endearing. Talk about prayer warriors. Passion and sincerity fills the classroom when the students get down to the act of praying. Even though I did not understand the words, the heart was abundantly clear. With heads covered and eyes closed, these girls shook the room with a language of devotion and love. Oh, that was good. I've got to write that one down. I must be referring to with heads covered and eyes closed, these girls shook the room with a language of devotion and love. Oh yeah, I was kind of enamored with how I wrote it down. I still am. All right, we'll continue on here. It has been over a week since I left from home. What a strange, detached feeling. A longing with no way to resolve. The worst part of the trip like this is the downtime. The time when there's nothing on the schedule. Motivation seems to wane without a specific task at hand. Writing in this journal is a duty that I need to be disciplined to keep up with. Yeah. And I find it's a challenge to pick up a pad and pen and try to reactivate the numerous sights and sounds of the day. Yeah, it was. It was an exercise of discipline. And, well, maybe that has something to do with that word we're so familiar with, discipleship, discipline. Oh, good. I can see that I'm going to write something about Lance. I always like writing about him. Lance has been more of a clown than even I have. Yesterday, he put on a pair of Billy Bob teeth, and the reaction was classic. They don't know what to think of these crazy Americans. The teachers here are quite pleased at how the course is going. They really enjoy the humor and sense we are mixing into our presentation. It kind of reminds me of a story. My wife and family were able to spend time in New Zealand. I was on staff at a Calvary Chapel down there. And I was going to take some of the things I'd learned from Lance about interacting. And so I brought Billy Bob teeth. And for those who don't know what Billy Bob teeth are, they're the kind that are all over the place. You put in, and it looks like you'd make the dentist faint. Anyway, I was going to do that when I first met the pastor that I was under down there. And I was coming out. I was going to come out of the airport, and I was, out through security, and I'd have these in sight unseen. He didn't know what I looked like, but we were rushed, and there was stuff. I didn't have time to don my costume, and I am so thankful I didn't have time, because a lot of the New Zealanders they had natural Billy Bob teeth. Yeah. Anyway, next page in the journal. We should finish up the IBS course today. The students are planning a cultural dance party for later this afternoon. Lance is planning a PowerPoint picture show for today also. And he had been filming the whole way along, and that was kind of our treat to them, to do a PowerPoint presentation with pictures of our interactions with the students. It's fun to be traveling with a techno geek wannabe. He knows much more about that kind of stuff than I do, and he probably still does way more. We've been staying at the Kingfisher Hotel while in Ambala. The pool at our hotel is what I consider a mood pool. And if you're back when I wrote this, I think mood rings were in, and if you're not familiar with a mood ring, you'd put it on and your body temperature would change the color of it. And so they would say, well, depending on your mood, you'd have a different color in there. So I coined the phrase for this pool. It's a mood pool. It's constantly changing colors. They cleaned it on Wednesday, and since then, we've watched it turn back to a nice shade of vegetative green. The frogs in the pool must be part of their filtration system. That's funny. The power here is constantly on the blink. I think they've done a fine job of timing. It goes down at the most inconvenient time possible. Praise the Lord, the toilets are not on the electrical grid. Yeah. And each toilet has its own personality. The one in my room has to be started in a similar fashion to a Kickstarter on a motorcycle. And yes, I give it plenty of gas before I try. All right, let me find another page here. This is kind of fun to recall the things I was doing there. All right, this is probably my last one for Ambala Training Center, and then we'll move on to the other training center we went to in Delhi. Okay, our time in Ambala is over. We finished the lessons on Friday. That afternoon, the girls performed various cultural dances, which represented some of India's different people groups. The students loved seeing themselves in the pictures we took. Yeah, they did. For many, they said this was the highlight of our time with them. And I'm sure they meant besides our teaching, right? Not just the pictures. We were taken on an outing to the Chandigarh on Saturday. Chandigarh? It must be Chandigarh. It is now. It is one of the cities that many Indians take a bit of pride in. It's a relatively clean and in order place as far as the few tourist attractions. One of them was a place called the Rock Gardens. It was an interesting spectacle of a mason's imagination gone wild. From low entrances to huge caverns, waterfalls, concrete trees with massive twisted roots. There were many landscaping mosaics done from broken porcelain. Maybe it was somebody kicked too hard on the toilet. I don't know. Now I know what I can do with old dinner plates and toilets. On the way back to the girls' training center, we stopped at another GFA training center and spoke words of encouragement to the men, had tea, and were on our way. I was particularly interested in this rock garden because you just go through it, and it was like whoever was in charge of it spent all his time and imagination seeing what he could come up with that could be represented in stone or mortar. And I do a lot of that in the trade that I'm in too. I do a lot of concrete work with making trees and branches and artistic tile work. So for me, that was an interesting stop along the way. So I guess we're back at our hotel now. After picking up our belongings, we said our final goodbyes to the students of Ambala. The girls sadly waved their goodbyes. Man, that's one of the bummers of the fall. Life is full of goodbyes. That's a true statement. It's one of the bummers of the fall. Life is full of goodbyes. One of the girls was very persistent to get my address. GFA has strongly warned us not to give out our addresses. I complied, but did let her know she could write me through the GFA headquarters. She also said she didn't like India and wanted to move to America. And I was somewhat taken aback. I was under the impression that all the students were truly dedicated in heart to serve God in their own country. I mentioned this to Bill. He's the one who was in charge of the region. He smiled and said, "Even Jesus had Judas." He said that often those who initially lacked a fervent burden for the lost could eventually develop one. This girl is the exception, not the rule. I suppose this is similar to most churches. There will always be a few who don't ever fully engage the plow. In Ambala, we were driven to the train depot. We had a nice game of Indian chicken. Oh, I remember writing this. This was fun. Stay tuned. Hold on to your seats. Fasten your seatbelt. The rules are very simple. When you drive at high speed down the road, you wait for a huge tractor to block your way. Quickly steer around the protruding farm implements and position your vehicle in the oncoming traffic lane. Notice the large truck approaching at a very rapid rate. As the driver of your vehicle, your responsibility is to increase your speed enough to ensure that you cannot safely re-enter your previous lane. Examine areas of escape until all hope of possible egress has been exhausted. Crickets again. Oh, that's my phone. I like crickets. In fact, here in Tennessee, we have a lot of crickets. And while I'm doing that, I'm just going to let it go. If it crickets again, consider it ambient noise. Okay, back to the game of Indian chicken. Here we go. So what you've done, and I'm going to examine areas of escape until all hope of possible egress has been exhausted. Increase speed. Use of the brakes is grounds for immediate disqualification. Hold your course steady until you are close enough to examine the dental hygiene of the oncoming driver's back molars. At this point, swerve back into your original lane at a cross angle as close to 90 degrees as possible. This has to be done without compromising the center balance of your vehicle. If it can be determined that there has been no external breach to the body of the vehicle and no soiled trousers, you can consider yourself to have won this round of Indian chicken. I almost have to take a breather just after reading that. I have never been so close to oncoming traffic. It is not uncommon to have only 3 inches of clearance from another vehicle at speeds of up to 40 miles per hour or more. Sometimes there is even less room than that. The roads and traffic are to be comparable to none other that I have ever experienced. Sometimes it's like being in the middle of a cattle drive. No, sometimes it is the middle of a cattle drive. Yeah, because cows are wandering across the road. In fact, there was one time a cow was so close and it was facing the direction of traffic, but if it had turned its head towards us, it would have been cow on the windshield. That's how close it, and you trusted that it wouldn't turn its head. The train ride from Ambala back to Delhi was uneventful. I think I was even able to get some sleep. Bill and Manny, our driver, who met us at the depot. They drove us over to the Centaur Hotel, which would be our home for the remaining week of our journey. The running joke in my head was to say, "Home, James," whenever we were done for the day. All right, I think that would be a great place to stop. Journey to India 20 years ago, Part 2. I guess we're going to have a Part 3. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget... That wasn't crickets, that was... Oh, maybe it was over here. I can't be sure which way, but there was a bell. So it's time to subscribe, like the video, and also let your friends know about it if you think this would be a benefit to them. Thank you for watching. Please leave comments if you want any particular type of video in the future. But again, thank you for being so faithful to come and watch these. It's been a real joy, and you help with that joy in the journey. God bless, and don't forget to take a nap.